And it wasn't until my last near death, only 3 years ago, that for the first time I was asked if I wanted to stay or I wanted to come back.
Was physically dead, I really understood that what I was really encountering was living. I've never in my life felt more alive than in the moment physically I was apparently dead.
In 2011, a spirit of light manifested through my son's voice to remind me of an agreement that I made in 1979 in return of my life.
Hello everybody. Welcome to our channel. In Dying, I Began to Live. My name is Ana Cecilia Gonzalez.
My name is Francisco Valentin.
And my name is Ingrid Honkala.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this amazing channel that we're creating. This is especially for those who have always thought about what is it? How can they say that in dying I began to live? Well, this is just because we know, the three of us know in different ways, how when dying, first of all, we don't believe that we ever die really. Death doesn't really exist, and we're going to go into this deeper into this topic because we've all experienced. In my personally, I was born with a very serious heart condition. So since I was a little girl, I was always my life was always threatened one way or another. So I've always been very close to death, but we're talking about the physical death of our bodies. And I've experienced things that I will show you through the while we advance in this program. And I will let you know about how when my body was physically dead, I really understood that what I was really encountering was living. I've never in my life felt more alive than in the moment physically I was apparently dead. So we're going to introduce you into this amazing journey of getting to know that death doesn't really exist when you know that our life is connected all the time to this world and to this other world that we call of death, when it's really not like that. So I'm really very interested in you to get to know each one of us, and I would like to now introduce Francisco. Francisco, so go ahead.
Thank you, Ana Cecilia. Uh, my name is Francisco Valentin, as you already know. And the reason why I'm here is because I had death experience at the young age of barely turning 18 back in 1979 when, due to a car accident, I died. And I came back knowing things not taught in school. Uh, that's when I learned that you don't die, because while I was dead, I went into what I learned to call the void, total darkness, but very peaceful, extremely peaceful. And at that moment, I realized that I was myself. I didn't turn into anything else. Born from a Catholic family, going through Catholic school, I thought that upon my return, I thought that I was going to be experiencing some things that I'd never experienced. And that's when I realized that I wasn't dead, that I was still myself. Uh, but when I came back, nobody believed in me. Nobody wanted to listen to me. And that's when I decided to, you know what, I'm going to keep it to myself and take it to the grave. Uh, but throughout my lifetime, I went through different spiritual experiences. Uh, for example, in the year 2000, I learned to understand that there is divine intervention uh, when I experienced the death of my dying mother. In 2002, I experienced uh, a near-death experience to learn how perception works. In 2010, I had a prophecy uh, that told me that I am no longer going to learn from outside sources, and everything was going to be learned from within. And that prophecy came to pass when, in July 7, 2011, a spirit of light manifested through my son's voice to remind me of an agreement that I made in 1979 in return of my life. That's when I realized that you don't die, you simply go through different experiences. And I had to live my earthly experience and at the same time learn and evolve within my spiritual realm. And that's when I understand that by dying, I learn how to live. That is my experience. What about yours, Ingrid?
Yeah, I love this, and the reason again we're calling our channel in Dying I Began to Live is because it's that recognition that at the end is never meant to be about dying, is meant to be about living. But in my case, Ana and Francisco, I did not really get to understand this until I actually had my last near death experience. I have had multiple experiences encountering death, and only even in my last near death experience, I had the message, and this is all I'm writing a new book when I'm telling all these stories. And it wasn't until my last near death experience that I receive the clarity that I have had another one when I was just an infant. So now I understand why throughout my whole life I wanted to die. And I wanted to die because when I had these near death experiences, the first one I can remember when I was close to 3 years old and I drowned. The second one when I was 24 years old and I had a motorcycle accident. I experienced home. I experienced that peace beyond understanding. I experienced what I call the silence behind the silence. I experienced love, all embracive joy, totality. And I wanted to go back to that. For many years, I even suffered from what can be described as existential depression because I wanted to go back there. And it wasn't until my last near death, only 3 years ago, that for the first time I was asked if I wanted to stay or I wanted to come back. And when I was asked if I wanted to stay, I'm like, of course I want to stay. I've been wanting to stay for 50 years. All my life, I wanted to go back there. And when I was asked if I wanted to come back, is when I had that realization of like, wait a minute, is this a test? I said, because if God is ever present, if God is always, always have been and is always here with me, and if absolutely everything is a manifestation of consciousness, and again, if we are an extension of that divinity, of that presence, of that universal divine light, then what is here and what is there? And I said, oh, I get it. There is no here and there is not there. And the only thing that was left to say at that moment was, keep me where I can serve God the most. So when I came back, it was the absolute clarity. Home is not a place, it's a state of being. And from that moment on, it was that clear understanding. It was never about dying. It's not about near death, it's about near life. How can I live this life to the fullest?
Exactly.
¿Qué
And let me
piensas?
tell you something. And now that you're saying that, Ingrid, it's like I remember since I was with a very serious lack of oxygen since I was a little girl. I always had these experiences where I came out of my body and didn't understand and couldn't tell anybody because there's no words to explain as a little girl what you go through when you're so young. But one thing that you're mentioning is how many times I felt I was not part of this world. I just didn't find my place because I thought I was experimenting things. I didn't even know if I was really my parents' daughter or was I a strange being that I was suddenly here that nobody experienced what I experienced because nobody talked about flying. I felt like sometimes I was out of my body and I moved my legs and I could fly everywhere. And it was this what we call hypothermia when I was so cold that my body couldn't keep me warm. Sometimes I just went out of my body. And I remember watching everybody from up there until my dad saw me once when I was in a pool. He came running, hugged me, and that moment I came back. How can you explain at that time? Because you don't find the words, you don't understand where you were. How can I say, well, Daddy, I was just up there and I saw you? And of course, they're going to say, well, she's a little crazy girl. No, there were nobody listening, nobody explaining, but I also felt this part of who am I? Why do I sometimes, and I was happier when I didn't tell anybody, but I was just someplace else. So it was not until I had, and of course through this journey, I I found I had this being that I always saw, which I named him Raphael without even knowing that he was my archangel Raphael, which I always spoke to him when I was about to die, when I was in danger, when I was very close to death in different moments in my life. He was always there. And I thought he was coming for me and taking me. I even remember fighting with him. Go away, I don't want to leave yet. But
Mhm.
I didn't know that what he was precisely doing is connecting me with this life. So it was until my near death experience when I was 24 that I had a heart arrest and a respiratory arrest that I had what we now call a near death experience. But then is when I understood precisely what Ingrid and friend Francisco are talking about. Like, it is never about death. It was, that was I mean, I didn't know that I was dying physically. My body was dying. It was there was no heartbeat. There was nothing that would keep me alive. But my Ana Cecilia, well, it was not even my name. It was my being. I felt more alive than ever. So suddenly I see my body, that's why when I understood what we say, my eyes, my hair, because it's somebody else. I mean, it's me, my being, who I am really, that has a body in that moment, but that's not me. So I could see everybody taking care of me, but I felt I was breathing, I was alive. And I had just such an amazing experience that it comes to what they're talking about, so much peace, so much love. And what I found, Ingrid and Francisco, it's that we are trying in this channel to get back to all of you that sometimes are lacking words to explain what sometimes doesn't have words. It's just you have to experience what you go through, and it doesn't have to be a near death experience. But what I felt there is this connection, and we're trying to precisely doing this beautiful channel is that in dying, whenever apparently we're dying, is when we're really living. So we want to make this connection of these two encounters of experiences that you and I and all of us have had in different moments and bring it to this world. Why don't we try to bring all of this beautiful experience where Ingrid wanted to stay, where I wanted to stay, where Francisco experienced, but we want to bring that here to this realm, to this space where we're now really trying to enjoy life to the fullest. What do you think about this, Francisco?
Well, you're absolutely right. One of the things that I want to stress is that you don't have to go through a near death experience to have a spiritual experience, because actually a near death
Correct.
experience is just one of the many forms or ways that you can have a spiritual experience. And I know that most people, well, a lot of people go through those experience, and they are taken like, oh, this had nothing to do with spirituality. That this could be my mind, my imagination, something curious that happened, uh, but don't really pay attention. Uh, one great example is me. When I died in 1979, I was too young. I was only 18. And back in 1979, there was no internet. The information that I had was very limited. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, a small island in the Caribbean, and the only thing that I had available was a few libraries and, uh, and 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 bookstores, but there was no subject about what I was facing. Uh, and through the years, I learned, but it took me a lifetime to learn that. Uh, for example, just to give you an example, when my mother died in the year 2000, I didn't even think that she died and came back. I thought, and I asked the doctor what happened to her, and he just said, "Well, those things usually happen. That's okay." When I had my near death experience in the year 2000, uh, that I made a transition and I came back, the doctors told me that I had gastritis because they couldn't find anything wrong with me. So, but they had to put something in the chart so they can claim the insurance. Uh, and those other experiences that I had, I didn't pay attention to it until after I had the encounter with the spirit of light. And that's when I realized that I was living a lifetime of spiritual experiences, leading me to this grander experience where I'm today working with the agreement that I made in 1979 in return for my life. But that was a whole lifetime of experiences. Uh, and a lot of people can have and can be having experiences like that, and they dismiss it. And uh, and 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 I want this to be a forum where people can ask questions. They can bring their experiences, so they can get more clarity, because we three have had those experiences and we understand what happened to us. But there's a lot of people that if they don't go to the right source, they're gonna be dismissed. And I want them,
Yeah.
and I want this audience to keep growing and listen to the stories of other people. We can help you guys to get clarity based on our own experiences, uh, and have this forum for you guys to really understand the spirit world, because we are here but we do not belong here. We are flesh, but we're not flesh. And I have much more to say, but let's hear about Ingrid.
Yes, Francisco, and people can really also get confused, and it's important to bring to clarity what could be really a medical situation, what could be really a spiritual. There's a lot of things that can be happening, and combining the three of us, we have had so many spiritual experiences that I think that's amazing how I would just say the universe brought us together so we could probably be these
Yes.
ambassadors, these beacons of light to answer the questions in so many different ways, three different ways to perceive, three different ways to experience. And oh gosh, there's so much knowledge here between the three of us. And all of us have experienced different things, like Anna is mentioning, near their experiences, encounters with spirit beings. Francisco, too, me too, since I was 3 years old, what I name beings of light, I've been seeing and communicating with them since I was a little child, having visions of the future, having memories to past life experience, realizing the true nature of who I am. I was just 2 years old when I came back from my first near that experience that I remember. And then I was already saying, I am not this. I am not this body. I am not this name. this is not who I am. And how could you or anybody get to understand? We're talking early 70s. There was nothing related to these subjects. And especially, I mean, probably there was already starting to appear some information here and there, but not for the common people. My family did not have idea what was happening. I could not express to anyone that what I was really experiencing. And needless to say, I didn't have the words or the understanding. It took many, many, many years and many other experiences to put the pieces of the puzzle together. And like I was mentioning, things like an experience. And oh, this is the other thing. All of us here have had more than one encounter with death. And that was even another misunderstanding I had when I wrote my first book. When I mentioned to someone that I had had the second near-death experience in a motorcycle accident, this person said, "No, how can you say you had two near-death experiences? No, you cannot put that in your book. That's nonsense." And I'm like, but I did. But because I felt bad about it, I felt like, oh, maybe it's not really true. I just name it in my book as I think I even said this was a brief out of body experience. And I mentioned it very briefly because I felt, and I think that's what happened to many of us. We feel this shy feeling or this, no, if I say they're going to think I'm crazy, or if I say it this way, no, they're not going to believe it. And through time, I've been opening myself to the knowing, yeah, these things happen, especially when somebody has had one near their experience. We have now, the three of us, met so many that have had two, three, four, even more. Why? Because now we're open. Now we're open to realize that the form and the formless are here present all the time. That we're not just form, we're divinity.
Mm.
Human being, the divinity, and the human aspect of us. So, like you were saying, Francisco, we're always going to, is the recognition of the surface and the depthness. So, this is how can we bring people to, yeah, to remember that there is no here and there is not there.
Yes, and you know, I'm going to go back to the name of our channel. With in dying, I began to live. You don't ever take this textually like dying. We're talking about the experience that all of us, because I want to bring to everybody's attention, how many times have we all gone through situations that we just don't understand, that we're connected, like you thinking about somebody and then they call you, or you're a lot of little things that we just ignore. And that's only the way that we are raising awareness to understand that we are all connected. I remember so well that after this near death experience where I physically died, and I tried to explain with the few words I could, because what happens here, and we will all agree that sometimes the experience you have in the spiritual world does not have a human word to explain it. So you try with the language you have, with the knowledge we all have, to try to explain what we went through. But sometimes there's no words. So when I came back to that, and I tried to talk to doctors, everybody, not only like Francisca said, shut me down, ignored me, but it was like they were afraid that I even talked about that I was there and that I was alive and that I felt better than ever and that I would love to go back. It was scary for everybody. So I want anybody that's listening to this, just don't feel a stranger like many of us felt already, because I was shut by priests, by psychiatrists, psychologists, pastors, anybody in the science world, in the spiritual world. This was in 1989. I was shut down in many ways because we couldn't talk about this, because we didn't know, they didn't know, but now we're finding many ways to do it. how to connect this beautiful spiritual world with this human life that we're going through. And we can make it the same. Why not bring the best of both worlds and try to make this lifetime, instead of making it so like strange for us to have spiritual experiences, make it like something, it's not something strange, it's just natural. The thing that we just have to open to the awareness to know that we're going through that. So I invite any of you that have gone through those experiences, that you don't understand them, that you feel they're odd, or that anybody has told you, you must be crazy, you must have been hilarious, it must have been the anesthesia, it must have been the medicine you took, it must have been blah 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 blah, whatever they tell you, you know what you know. Trust, and like Francisca said, the answers are within you. So what we need to do now is go inside and try to really listen, silence a little bit, and know that the knowledge is inside you. So we don't need to die physically. We don't need to have a horrible experience like a motorcycle accident or a car accident or a heart arrest or a respiratory arrest to connect with this. So part of what we're going to do in here is to precisely give you tools, anything that we have experienced in many ways, to try to bring this together. Because I know that many of you listeners have gone through things that you dismissed it because it was easier not to talk about it. Well, here you can talk about it, and I'm sure we can connect with you in many, many ways.
That's that's
So,
that's
what do
that's
you
very
think?
true. That is very true. And let me give you an example. In my specific case, uh, born and raised Catholic, I had the understanding that when you die, you're gonna meet the Lord, and then you're gonna have a life review, and then you're gonna go to paradise or the purgatory or hell, etc., etc. And that I had that belief in my mind. However, in my car accident, first of all, I didn't know that I was dead. All I remember is the last thing that I remember in the physical body is when I was holding on the steering wheel and I received this side impact, and that's it. My soul detached from my physical body, and I found myself in the void, what many claim to be the black void. But in the black void, I felt this immense peace that cannot be easily described. And one thing that I distinguish, that I can tell you that it was the most shocking of all, not at the moment but when I came back, is that I knew that I was still myself. I was still myself, and I knew that I was still myself. I do not remember on that moment ever being Francisco Valentin. I
Mm,
knew I was consciousness. I knew that I was alive, but I needed no physical body to be alive. I was suspended right in the middle of the void. I didn't have a physical body. I didn't have anything uh, that I can help me relate to who I was before. It was like a perpetual existence. There was no past, no future. I was just myself, right in that void. Uh, that's when I, through my, not through my physical eyes, because when people are in the other side, that they say, "Oh, I saw this," or I saw that," you're not seeing it with the physical eyes. It's a way that you bring to memory a perception that you can relate through the sight, because is non-existent. I mean, none of this exists at the deepest level. Like Ingrid said, there's no here, there's no there. There's none of this exists.
I call it the eyes of the soul.
Exactly, exactly. Well, let's say that let's talk about the eyes of the soul. So with the eyes of my soul, I saw a dim light getting closer, as it got closer, it started swirling around me. And when started swirling around me, I could see like a white cloud around me. And that's when I started feeling this immense, undescribable peace and love. That I rather call it peace and not love, because I feel that love is, it has a lot of, of, of different levels of understanding, but peace is only one. When
Mm-hmm.
you have peace, you have peace. That's it. And and that's when suddenly a what it seemed like a dark cloud overcast everything. And the next thing that I remember was that I went through a funnel, getting narrower and narrower, and that's when I got back to my body. But one little detail that I was told that my mother was that when I was uh, going to the operating room right after the accident, that I kept claiming how beautiful it was out there and that I didn't want to return. Nevertheless, I do not recall ever saying that. But I
Mm-hmm.
have no reason to doubt of what my mother said. In other words, what I'm trying to explain to you right now is that not because you don't remember, that means that you didn't have that experience. It's just that it
Exactly.
wasn't, in my case, it
Exactly.
wasn't allowed. I wasn't allowed to bring it back to memory. For what reason, I still don't know. But if I said that it was so beautiful and I don't remember any of that, is because I have it inside me and it have not gone out yet. So those who have had those experiences, and like for example, Ingrid, that you had that experience when you were a child, a little girl, and even though you have memories, you did not understand many of the things that happened to you until you start growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And if, like
Exactly.
Ana Cecilia said, if you start dismissing all that information because this one tells you that and this one tells you that other, even though you know deep in your heart that you had a spiritual experience that you cannot put a name. And that's one thing that I want to stress out. A near death experience is only one of many spiritual experiences. And you may have had many experiences that you have discarded. But when you start adding and putting them all together, you come to new realization. And that's where the awakening start happening. And that's what we want to bring to the table. So you listener, ask questions, contact us, uh, do what it takes to get clarity. Follow us, spread the message, so we can have more people and more people ask questions that you might have never asked yourself. But when the question comes in, you said, "Oh, I never thought of that question." And that brings another door, getting you closer to how Ingrid says, going back home, which is our purpose, helping you remember. We're not teaching, we're helping you remember. So once you remember, you know and learn who you are. And once you learn who you are, then you can have a roadmap so you can go back home. And that's what we want, help you go back home. Oh,
Oh, I love that.
Great, Francisco.
Oh,
Great.
there was for many years when once I started to share all these experiences, people ask me, "How can you remember? How can you remember you were such a little child when the first near death experience when I drowned happened?" And I always said, "It's like the door never closed. It's like the door never closed." And then I've been having this communication, like I mentioned, with beings of light since I was a little child too. And years later, I kept repeating that same sentence. And one day, it's like I received the clear message, "Oh, Ingrid, of course, the door never closed. Because guess what? There are no doors."
There you go.
What we call God, consciousness, the kingdom of heaven, universal light, universal. consciousness is here for us always. We are the ones that, due to misunderstandings, that due to beliefs, that due to pressures, whatever it is, like we carry on us, it could be cultural, religions, family, whatever it is, we start creating, closing, creating layers, closing doors. If you think about it, imagine that the sun is shining and you close the shutters. It doesn't mean the sun went anywhere, it's still there. And even if you just poke a little, like, it's still there. So it's always there. And our work, like Francisco is saying, is how can we remember that we are the light? How can we start peeling those layers and go back to the truth that we are? When I had my first near-death experience, the first thing I saw, and Francisco mentioned the void, the first thing I saw when I drowned was darkness. And right after that darkness, you also mentioned, Francisco, the word love. I didn't use the word love either. It was peace. I call it peace beyond understanding, serenity, silence. I call it the silence behind the silence. Silence I prayed for the rest of my life. And in that peace, serenity, calmness, I saw light. And again, seeing light with the eyes of the soul, I saw light. And when the light came, it was that at the beginning, for many years, I thought that that light was something outside of myself. Like I have seen light. And it took, again, many years of understanding, integrating, uh, putting all together what had happened, that I realized, oh, and the clarity came from within. That light that you saw was your own light.
Exactly.
It was not something
Exactly.
outside of you. We are that light. And this is another thing that shocked me incredibly in my first near death experience. Something I think none of that when I even saw my body in the water after I left my body and entered into that peace, I didn't know I have left my body. I didn't know I died. I didn't know anything. But when I saw the body and I had the realization, oh, that's my body. And it felt very familiar. But the only thing that shocked me and I was never able to take away from my mind was when I saw the eyes. And you know how when we said that the eyes are the mirror of the soul? When I saw the eyes in that body, the eyes were open and were empty. It was like I knew it's knowing that was a shell.
We're not there.
Yeah, like you say, Anna, my body, my eyes, my this, like that's
But
my,
we're not there.
but that's not who I am. And throughout the experience, I realized myself as a being of light. So, oh my God, there's so much to talk here, but
Yeah.
yes, yes. Oh God.
Beautiful, beautiful, Ingrid. So I would like to, because we don't want to take a lot of time, just letting all of you know what this channel, the intention of this beautiful channel is the purpose it is. And I'm sure many of you have gone through many of these beautiful experiences. We are the light. We are, we are exactly what you see in somebody else. And let me tell you something, you cannot see in any of us something that's not already within you. If you see beauty in me, it's already there in you. Just look inwards. So, and one of the things I wanted to mention, just to start closing up, is that everything that's happening, that's something I learned in my near-death experience and in other experiences I've had, is that time doesn't exist either. It's difficult to understand that, but time doesn't exist. Everything's happening at the same time. That's why when things come to your mind, like Francisca said, let's help you remember who you are, who we really are. And one of the things I can tell you is that we're all connected. And what we will find at the end is that all of us are meant to be one, and we complete each other in many ways, like we're trying to do now. So we're a whole. And then you start feeling less strange, less different, less like your experience, whatever you've gone through, whatever you have. I know there's going to be a way we can understand you, because in deep, deep, deep in our souls, we are one, and you have the answers within you. So I really want to invite everybody, all of you that are watching us, to get your questions open, like Francisco was inviting you. Just feel this is part of your own space. We're only trying to open our hearts, our soul, to our souls, to a space that so everybody can feel comfortable. I think the three of us, just as maybe you've gone through moments in which you feel lonely. Well, you're not. We are with you. We are one. And even people that we feel so apart from us, this space will help you understand that they are part of us. It's just trying to look within and trying to see that special part that we've all gone through, that sometimes separated, but at the end, we're all together. So I really want to invite you to think about your own experiences, make your questions, try to, even if you're interested of being part of this group, we can invite you. So just put there out there if there's anything that you would like to share. We're very open to, because we've shared a little bit of everything we've gone through. Like Francisco said, we're just sharing a little bit of us, because there's not so much space. But I would really invite you to please look at, we're going to have the information, we're going to have our web pages, our connections. We've all experienced different things, and that makes us this, that's why this is so special, because none of us are the same, and at the same time, it's all the unity makes us a whole. So you can look for our information, you can get to know us better, each one of us, and we would really like for you to follow us, uh, talk about us, share everything you can share about this channel, and make, please be part of us, so we can take the best of the two worlds, the other one and this one, and make it a whole world together. So thank you, Francisco.
Yes, that's the idea. You put it very, very well. If we can combine the physical world with the spiritual world, we can create that balance that we need so we can live in conformity with this world and understanding the spirit world. Because in the end, when we leave this physical body, guess where we're gonna go?
Yeah.
So once you create that balance, and the balance is created by being in conformity with what we want to bring. For just to give you an example, uh, the spirit world that we're talking about here is a word of love, peace, comprehension, uh, everything that had to do with the unity between one another. Because in the end, we are only one. We're one, like my spirit guide said, we're one infinite mind, endlessly expanding through the physical and spiritual world, limitless. So if we understand that, we can be in balance. So we can look forward to going back home, and at the same time we can have peace living in this physical world. And that balance is what we want to create by helping you understand better the spiritual world, what happened to you, and how to relate with the spirit world, which is the one that is coming forward. Like it or not, believe it or not, that's the way it is. Ingrid?
Yeah, and guess what,
Yes,
Francisco? Anna, we are a spirit.
we
So
are.
our nature is a spirit. So, like you're saying, the farther we go from the truth that we are, the more we suffer, because we're unbalanced, disconnected.
Mhm.
And when people come and ask me all the time, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? What is my mission? What am I doing here? And that's, of course, the question I pondered to the universe, the beings of light. And the answer was beautiful. They said to me, your purpose, you, Ana, Francisco, Ingrid, every one of you, your true, only true purpose is to remember, that we've been using the word remember,
Mhm.
is to remember that you are the light. What means to be the light? Remember what you just said, Francisco, that you are that peace, that love, that joy, that spaciousness, that presence, that life. Remember that you are spirit, you are soul, you are consciousness, you are the light. And your mission, your true mission, is to shine that light wherever you are. And I said, God is so smart that, look, Anna being a lawyer,
A lawyer. Yeah.
lawyer, Francisco,
Former insurance agent.
insurance agent, me, scientist, look, God, I said, God is so smart that we all have these experiences and complete different ways of life.
Different backgrounds
So,
completely.
yeah, so we can share with anyone, and anyone that feel aligned with Anna. Oh, I get it from, oh, I get it from Francisco, I get it from Ingrid, and all of us together now here combined
Yeah.
can bring and shine that light. So your purpose, remember that you are the light. Your mission, shine that light wherever you are and with whatever you're doing. Because many people have experiences and they think, I had to divorce, I had to drop everything, I had to drop my job, I have to. No, you don't. Unless your inner brings you to a change, just shine your light wherever you are.
Shine. Beautiful.
Yes.
Beautiful, Ingrid. Beautiful. Well, I don't know if you've got any more. I really want to thank everybody, invite you. Francisco, you do it in a nice way. Why don't you tell us where can they find all the information, and we'll be seeing you next time. But if you want to close up with that,
Yes,
because we're gonna have, yeah,
actually,
go ahead.
we're going to put on the description of this video our web pages of each
Yeah.
one of us, so you can learn more about us, so you can understand where we're coming from, so you can learn a little bit more of our experience. So that will help you a lot to understand where we're coming from, because we're talking little pieces here and there, but each one of us has a long list of experiences and descriptions and details that is very hard to put together. But at least if you know a little bit more of us, that will help you ask your questions, because you know that
Exactly.
Ingrid has gone through this experience similar to yours, and you can ask her, or you can ask me, or you can ask Ana Cecilia. So go to our website, uh, get to know us better, spread the message. I mean, don't keep it as a secret, because otherwise we won't go anywhere. I mean, we won't be able to go too far. So spread the word, make this video viral, because that's actually what we need to, in order to change the world, we need to change first. And the more people that can make that change within themselves, the faster we're going to grow, and the faster we're going to go back home. And that's the whole idea. So spread the word, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ingrid. Thank you, Francisco. So, in dying, we began to live. We'll see you next time. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
Next time.
Thank you. Mwah.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.